how'd you go for lunch? All right? Yeah, I was just going to, if you reach that point where you kind of after your little luncheon, you sort of have a little, because sort of got the afternoon kind of thing. But you know, you're about to be absolutely scintillated. Is that the right context?
Yes.
It's scintillating. Okay. Yeah. Scintillating. I'm amazed that word came out of my mouth. So, hey, thanks for coming to this session. This session is all about shining a little bit of light into the dark art of digital marketing and social media and why you all need a TikTok account or not. But we have some great people to navigate through this afternoon. And it's, you know, I'm just going to let you into a little bit of a secret here. So we did this exact panel this morning. And so we're repeating them this afternoon, which is a challenge for us because we feel like we did a really, you know, we had already had this conversation.
We slayed this morning.
And now we're going to have it again, like we haven't had this conversation this morning. So it's just a bit of kind of parallel universe type thing going on. So just for your benefit, if someone sort of says, like I said this morning, and it's like, yeah, well, we need to talk about that again. So I'm going to introduce this amazing panel who have got some fantastic insights into helping navigate, I think, a space that probably a lot of us, you know, some of us are all over it. Some of us are kind of reading, you know, eating up whichever platforms is the one that's, you know, in the zeitgeist, and others are just going, I don't know, I think I put a kind of an A thing before some other name, and then that will mean that it will hit some other person's account. Yeah, thanks for acknowledging. Yeah, I think I put an A thing, or is that a hashtag moment, or do I put an A thing? I don't know. Anyway, so to take us through, I'm going to introduce our stellar panellists. I probably should get a little bit sharper in my delivery now because our friends at RPP are actually recording. So Stevie, I'm going to start now. This is the moment where you actually edit all the stuff that's gone before. And I'm going to actually switch on. So thanks everyone for being part of our session this afternoon as part of the Mighty MP Music Summit. It's a fantastic day. It's fantastic to see so many people here from different parts of our community and those who've come to visit us as well. Welcome. Today we'll be talking about the dark art, or navigating the dark art of digital marketing and social media with some incredible panellists who've got some really great expertise and insights to share. So I'm going to introduce firstly in the middle, Dallas Frasca, who is a musician and self-made and fairly ferociously independent artist, to take us through, you know, her perspective on working in that space as an independent artist. I also want to let you into a little bit of a secret, although it's something that she does share on her socials, but on her website. But Dallas comes with the fairly significant imprimatur of Slash from Guns N' Roses, who had a particular, wanted to review your work. How did this particular liaison come about, Dallas?
Well, Tracy, I'm glad you asked. I was like thinking, what is she talking about? And then I was like, oh, yes, I remember now. I do remember now.
It's on your website.
It is on my website, and it happened to me. I was here. So Slash and I met. Bob Irwin, Steve Irwin's dad, said Slash and Dal coming up and open my new koala sanctuary. And I was like, yes. And I ended up hanging out with Slash from Guns N' Roses for the day. It was actually like I was tripping on acid because I just couldn't believe that I was hanging out with him all day. It was really amazing. I've got this photo. Slash is holding a snake and I'm holding a crocodile. Actually happened. And then I threw him my CD, and Slash, you know, with his hair and his hat, had the hat on too, cruised off in the bus and my album was blaring, and then about an hour later he tweeted me, which has been my quote for the rest. And he's actually really supportive of lots of artists. He's used his platform these days is really, particularly women as well. So thanks, Slash.
And do you call him Slash?
Slashy.
Slashy to his mates.
Yeah.
Dallas has played over 1,000 shows nationally and internationally on some of our most prestigious stages, including the Sydney Opera House, Blues Fest, Big Day Out, and the closing ceremony of the Commonwealth Games on the Goldie, performing the Divinals song Boys in Town with an all-star, all-female band.
First all-female band to ever play at a sporting event in Australia, actually.
Incredible. Round of applause. And her latest album, if you're looking, is called Force of Nature. And I couldn't really imagine why an artist like Dallas Frasca would call an album Force of Nature, but there you are. Peter Whelan is with us. Peter is an artificial intelligence specialist. So Peter is really in the weeds of the dark art of the AI, how it intersects with the creative, the creative process or the creative marketing around what we're all trying to achieve as artists. 2 decades experience as a music agent and producer working across the UK and Australia. Is a specialist in cloud solutions, specifically though, and this is the interesting part, and we'll talk a bit more about it in this session, identifying and claiming missing streaming income for rightful rights holders, which is an interesting space to navigate. So we'll make sure we'll note to self get to that. But also worked in clubs and festivals and ran the Greenpeace stage at Glastonbury and were endorsed by none other than
Slash.
Mumford and Sons.
Mumford and Sons. It's one of those sort of sessions. Yes. And how did that come about?
I was working at the Greenpeace stage, and all artists used to play for free. Mumford were quite at the beginning of their career, playing for free, but I made sure they're extremely well fed and watered with plenty of veggie food and all this kind of stuff. And they said that I'd given the best treatment out of all the gigs in the Glastonbury Festival they played. The next year they were headlining the Pyramid stage, so it just goes to show you how quickly things can happen for some people. So
yeah.
And critically, did they remember you?
No, I didn't get free tickets. But I'm sure if they come to the Greenpeace Fair, maybe they came and had some food at some point. I think their catering was getting a bit better by then, though.
Wow, that's that Alan Toussaint song, isn't it? The same people you meet on the way up, you're going to meet them on the way on down.
Yeah.
So, Mumford and Sons, take that, eh? Sarah Guppy is a publicity, marketing and promotions expert, an artist manager, programmer, working nationally and internationally. So Australia, but also across London and specifically through Asia as well, working with festivals, conferences, brands, government agencies, that kind of whole sort of nexus ecosystem where the artist and the brand and the marketing kind of all intersect. Multi-skilled as a producer and songwriter, so understands sort of both sides of the equation there. Sarah, working in that sort of space, that Asia market, which has kind of exploded over the last probably decade or so in particular, 10 to 15 years for artists. Those opportunities have become massive for Australian artists. How would you kind of characterise just what that market could demonstrate for artists?
Yeah, it's a very exciting market. The Asian market is a little bit more behind Australia, the UK, and the US. So it's exciting. It's still very emerging, but they have some of the best festivals in the world, and they have very, very dedicated fan bases. And there's definitely a place for Australian artists in Asia.
And how are you finding Australian artists are reaching those Asian audiences? Is it largely through Sina Weibo, which is the Chinese Twitter? How significant is the sort of social media presence to connect with those audiences who don't necessarily, there won't be a kind of a quick association? It's other ways of finding them.
I think the main thing is, when you enter any market, is to do research and understand if your music has a place in that particular country or region. And then the second thing is to make sure that your music is actually available on their local platforms, because a lot of the countries don't have Spotify or Spotify has just launched there. So, you know, for instance, if you really want to break it big in China, you want to be on Tencent because they pretty much own the whole streaming. And then YouTube's massive in Asia. That is definitely a space that you want to be on.
Interesting. And with your manager hat on, your manager stroke marketer hat on, where do you advise artists who you're working with now? Where do you say, you know, look, you've really got to be here and there, and this is the kind of presence that you need to be thinking about having? Is there a kind of a snapshot that you advise around where artists need to be right now?
As in social platforms?
Yeah, social platforms. Sorry, yeah.
Look, I think it's different for every artist. There's no one size fits all. It was a little bit different maybe like 5-10 years ago when you could have a marketing plan that you could kind of put across different artists, but it's completely different for different styles of music, different audiences, different countries. The other thing with the digital platforms exploding, it means that you can become a global artist pretty much straight away. You know, before you had to kind of hit physical copies to those markets, so you maybe focus on one area at a time. Mm-hmm. Now, as soon as you put your music up on Spotify or different streaming platforms, it is there globally already. So I think there's not a short answer for this. It really depends on where you're at in your career as to where you should be, and also who your audience is. So I think, you know, we talk about this a lot, and we talked about this a lot before, is kind of figuring out those spaces and where those audiences are for you. For instance, you know, Facebook is probably an older audience now. You know, we manage the Record Store Day Facebook as well, and all of their socials, and we actually post different things across TikTok, Instagram and Facebook, because our Facebook audience is mainly 40 to 60-year-old men. I'm not joking.
And me. Over 60.
I'm jealous
as well.
Whereas if our Instagram, we have targeted that more at the younger, you know, audiences buying vinyl now. So, you know, we had Taylor Swift as an ambassador, so that kind of helped us build that space. And then TikTok, we actually just launched TikTok this year, so we're kind of still figuring it out. But we know that it's a completely different space, and what we post on TikTok, we don't post on any of our other platforms.
And when you're saying we post on TikTok, who are you referring to there?
Oh, when I say we, that is the lovely Erin Larkins, who works for me.
In your company?
Yeah, for This Much Talent.
This Much Talent.
She works, she's the TikTok master. Honestly, I can't take any credit for it. She was running it for about a month before I even looked at it, and was just like, oh, wow, you're really good at this.
Yeah. How vital is it, you know, that an artist is on a platform like TikTok now?
Look, I mean, this is a really hard answer. Everyone can say you have to be on there, but again, I think it depends where your audience is. As an emerging artist, it's definitely an important space, but it's a space where you have to treat it as a marketing tool, like you would with radio, like you would with, you know, online blogs, like you did back in the day, but literally use that as a tool to get them to somewhere else. So whether it be to buy your music or to sign up to your mailing list, literally it is a marketing tool.
Cool. Dallas, how much time and energy do you think about your profile and presence on social media, and how do you go on TikTok, Dal?
I'm on the top.
You're on the top?
I'm on the top.
What do you do on there?
I totally agree. I think they're all really different platforms. I think there is such an overwhelm for independent artists to be like thinking about every single thing, and Sarah's so right, like every single platform's different. And I know that when I'm catering to my Facebook page or Instagram, I know that when I cater to those audiences specifically, when you've got a chance to sit down and really flesh them out, I do a lot better with algorithms and that shit. But it's like Sarah said at the end of the day, it's what if you know what your intention is and what your vision is for those posts, that will help guide you to know what you want to post. For me, it can be really overwhelming, but planning those things out fairly well. But yes, I think about it way too much, Tracy Hutchinson.
Yeah. So when you say trying to navigate algorithms and I guess almost sort of game the platforms, which is really what everyone is trying to do.
Yeah.
Game the platforms. What's your strategy for doing that?
Okay. So we were talking about this earlier. This is my second tier of thinking. Like, my first tier of thinking as an independent artist is building my business one person at a time, because we can get caught up in algorithms and like, I've got to hack this, and we're actually dealing with people, like people who have chosen to like your page or whatever for that. So, my, I suppose, ethos for this is like to have a sustainable, write really great music, and then to have a sustainable living, like create a sustainable living with different ways of touring, merchandise, those kind of things. I said so much, I almost lost my train of thought. Not almost, did.
So it's about sort of what's gaming the platforms was the question. How do you do that in terms of leveraging algorithms?
Thank you. Yes, I don't worry about it too much now. It's I think at the start it's like, oh my God, and this is one thing we were talking about earlier. Before I released the record, I was just sort of posting things here and there, and I was getting a really big reach with things, and I was like, wow, this one's kind of viral. Those sort of things are happening. But then when I started promoting the record, the thing just closed down, and my reach is like so small now that I've stopped caring about it. So I treat it as a magazine. I honestly do. Like, and for me, I want to connect. I want to connect with people and go out and play shows and build my community like real people. So that's sort of that's my strong focus, and this is sort of like my magazine to kind of maybe dangle the carrot to come in a little bit. But yes, I do use digital marketing on the back end. I am watching those things. I will adjust things if they didn't get a bigger reach. Yes, I am watching that. Jokes aside, yes, I am watching it a little bit, but yeah.
And also, when you talk about that idea that you initially had a really great reach and you saw it sort of shrink and shrink and shrink, and the conclusion you drew from that was because you weren't taking out paid advertising, and
100%.
Yeah, it
100%.
closed down on you.
Yeah, Facebook knows when you're like, hey, I've got a new record coming out. As soon as they see those words, they're like, shrink. I mean, it's just a thing. Like, you can't beat the algorithm. I feel like, we need social media. There is a really huge opportunity to draw audiences in. At the same time, it doesn't always translate as it does this glorification with Triple J as well, with things like that. I'm not saying that not to strive for those things, because they are platforms that introduce people to new music. But it's, I suppose, it's not one shoe fits all artists. And it's about, for example, if we're talking about marketing, I remember years ago, I did this one tour, and we had this show in Brisbane that there was only this one, the Hi-Fi in Brisbane was the only venue, which my band was not ready to fill that space just yet. So we were like, oh my God. And we, poured money into Facebook marketing and all that sort of stuff. But we ended up going to the streets, and we went to the tip, and we're like, well, we've got no money. What can we do? So we got all these flower pots and some stones, because stones didn't cost anything. We got some coat hangers, and we put these little love hearts and put them out all of the busy streets around Brisbane with, some flyers, the old school way. We went to the streets, Trace.
And it worked?
It worked. We filled that venue.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's go from love hearts in flower pots in the valley in Brisbane to Peter to navigate probably the most other extreme of that, which is leveraging the good components of artificial intelligence to help artists and help creatives, market themselves better and be out there in the world to try and connect with audience. What do you see as the great advantages of AI for an artist that's actually trying to find an audience?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to acknowledge is it's a new tool, and it's an extremely accessible tool, and it's an extremely cheap, accessible tool to use, and it's down to you how you use it. A lot of people use it in very different ways. They might use it for help answering emails. I think it's good for making content. Certainly, it will increase your productivity. But it kind of comes with the proviso that it can hallucinate. And I think that if you're writing content especially, you should keep a human in the loop to make sure that what you're saying is accurate, or what the machine is saying is accurate, and certainly on point and in the flavour of your audience as such, so it doesn't come across too artificial. Give you an example, perhaps. A friend had a catalogue of African music, unearthed African music, a lot of artists on there. He wanted to write a lot of short biogs for the website. His first thought was to turn to ChatGPT to write those. He said, take a look at it. I looked at it and said, all looks absolutely wonderful to me. It says, Femi Akinbibi is and his Mombasa jazz band, the height of the Kenyan jazz scene, sounds plausible, but it's completely made up, right? And if you're an expert on African music, you'll see straight into that, and you're not going to have a good reputation as a label, kind of putting out that misinformation. So it's really important to have that human in the loop, reviewing it, and take it, use it as a starting point, then alter it yourself, and then say, can you make this better? And it'll often improve what you say, but I wouldn't take it straight out there of the mouth. It can be a bit verbal diarrhea-y sometimes. Anyway.
Lovely analogy after lunch. I want to ask you, if you would too, Peter, to explain a little bit about how you've been able to leverage AI to identify and claim the missing streaming income from rights holders. I think that's a really interesting place to take the conversation, because it's such a good example.
So what's really important is to make sure when you're a songwriter that all your metadata is correct. And when I say metadata, I mean things like credits for publishing, credits for writers, credits for who's played on what, all that sort of stuff, and even tagging. I think we'll come up to that later on in the afternoon. But basically, these are the things that are going to get you paid, because your publisher will then send the information on to, hopefully the publisher won't have made a mistake in a typo, but this is what I'm encountering has happened over the years. They send it on to the collection societies. Collection societies collecting the money from various streaming platforms who say, I've played this record uploaded by this person, and the credits will go to here. But if it doesn't match, then nobody gets paid, and the money goes into this pot at the side. And we're trying to basically reduce that pot, learn where the mistakes are, because you've got to remember, music industry is quite a mature business, and over the years and years and years, many databases have come together to create other databases. Within those databases, there's human errors, inaccuracies, and some of them are done on purpose, I actually think, sometimes, to divert funds in various ways. And it's a historical mess. It's well known in the industry. I can't solve it all by myself, but I'm trying to use AI to overcome some of that. We're using sort of matching techniques that weren't available before, and harnessing AI to do that, and hopefully end up distributing the money to the correct songwriters.
We love that.
Cool. And just another point just on that, Peter, before we go back to the other people on the panel, but when you say, make sure your metadata is correct, for folk who don't actually know what it is that you mean when you're talking about that, what is it that you're talking about, the metadata being correct?
It's just ensuring that all the credits are correct, and you're tagging things properly as well, so that recognition can pick up your tracks when it comes to playing back them. But
when you're registering, like with APRA for emerging songwriters, that would be the same thing.
Look, there's a lot of different ways that human errors can come into it. So first and foremost, get your stuff right, because there's ultimately umpteen other people who are going to handle that thing. I'll cite an example. We ran a small sample for a publisher. I said, send me 50 works by your artists, and just send me the name of the work, and the surname of the writer. They sent it to me. I ran it through, and I was like, "Hang on a second, this guy, all his tracks haven't matched." So I had a manual look at it. Oh, hang on a second, the publisher's got the name wrong. He's missed out one I from so that's step one of, well, actually step one is you getting the right information to the publisher. Step two is the publisher having the information right. He might have passed it on to if it's not one of his important artists, it's not AC/DC or something like that, he might have passed it on to the trainee in the office, and they spelled your name wrong or spell the title wrong, and it's literally stuff like missing punctuation as well as things. These sort of things cause mismatches, and that's where it goes through the system, and if it doesn't match, then the money goes somewhere else and not into your pocket. And you want it in your pocket, right? Who doesn't? But it's at every level, because it's not only from the publishers, it's people who are uploading to the streaming platforms. They need to get there. If you're re-releasing an album, you've made a compilation album, and you're the one who puts a typo in, then somebody else at the other end, and the PRO has got to try and use their algos to get it matched. So I see all of this coming on a daily basis, and that's why it's just. I mean, a lot of people know now that it's important to get the metadata, but rewind to the 60s and before, people are doing, well, nobody knows where some of the deals are, but people were doing handshake deals, and someone who had a publishing company 20 years ago, they have absolutely no idea. They retired or whatever, and they weren't making a huge amount of money, but they don't really have any records. So there's a lot of stuff out there. And in fact, in America, the MLC, and this is just streaming mechanical royalties, they are collecting nearly $90 million a month to distribute, and they're only able to distribute, say, 80 odd. So it's about $10 million every month is going into that pot, and that belongs to you guys. So claim, but if you don't know it's missing, you can't claim it.
No.
Dallas, for you, in terms, fantastic, really, really interesting lens on. I guess an emerging thing for most artists, like for a sort of fiercely independent artist like yourself, trying to be the CEO of your company, your business, making decisions for you about what is the best strategy for you, which I suspect changes on a daily basis in many ways, trying different things. I'm interested for you, Dallas, to sort of, you've got a new record out, for example, the new album's out. What was it might be useful to actually talk through what your strategy has actually been for putting this new record out, what you targeted, where the social media intersected with traditional media, for example, what role that's played for you in terms of trying to ensure that your record lands with maximum ears.
Yeah. So I just think it's really different for every artist. And for me, I had a couple of things that would create a success story for me as an artist. And so I put got my whole team together, me. And so a couple of those success stories, one was trying to chart in the ARIA charts by myself. And the other one was, which has definitely changed from what the game used to be a little bit back. But the other one was community radio. So AMRAP, we spoke a little bit at length. That was a part of my strategy to remind radio stations that I was performing again. And because it had been some time since I'd released anything, I was running festivals and Sarah was working and we were working together. But so a part of that was I wanted to get a number one on the AMRAP charts. So AMRAP, does show of hands, anyone knows what AMRAP is? Yeah, for those who don't, it's our community. It's basically an organisation which is like the central hub where you upload your music and then they distribute it out amongst all. They offer it up on the platform for community radio announcers to.
Nationally, it's free.
And it's free. It is free. So free, everyone's running free AMRAP. So my first part of the strategy was to upload the first single, and then I sent over 800 personal emails out.
Wow.
Got myself number one, guys. And then the second one, I emailed back the people that had who had championed the song previously, because I'd engaged those already. But while I was engaging, I was also promoting my tour. So it was like, hi, how you going? You know, is this a right fit? I think it might be a right fit for your program. I wasn't emailing the metal guys. It was like a big Excel spreadsheet. And then my third one, I was like, this is an experiment. I'm going to do 0. Have I engaged people enough to get their attention when I did it? Got a number 2. Got a number 2 without any engagement at all. So that was a part of my strategy. And then the third one was charting for the ARIA charts. And so that was about connecting with my email database. A lot of people talk about, a lot of artists now, you don't start promoting the album until it's out. My success story was promoting it beforehand much more, and the rest will be done on the road, and then I'll start, unfolding the next plan. But so I engaged all of the people that had bought my albums in the past with quite a large mailing list that I've got now. Got myself a number 2 on the ARIA charts, which is really awesome. Which no label support's pretty good, but I think that was it. That was a part of my strategy. And then touring, obviously, to promote the new record. I think that's a really good way, and that's it.
And the interesting thing about that is, for you, there's a kind of a multitude of elements in your approach and strategy, but also I'm just going to cough.
Lucky we're not recording.
Sorry, Steve. I've got one of those terrible frogs in my throat.
Sort her out, Pete.
That one.
We've got you covered. Here you go.
I've got water here. I was trying not to cough because I've got 2 microphones and it's impossible.
Here you go, girl.
I've got water. But,
thanks. Thanks, Pete. So while Tracy's coughing,
it's a terrible broadcaster thing.
I'm just going to say
terrified of it.
that at question and answer time after the show, you see these T-shirts up here. We're going to be like Adele, and we're going to be throwing out these shirts afterwards.
Okay.
So get your questions ready.
I've hydrated.
Back to you, Tracy.
I was thanks.
Yeah.
Dallas. I was going to ask Sarah actually to talk us through, that strategy that there is no one size fits all, and I think that's the thing that sort of comes out of these conversations. Perhaps can you pick up that while I try and work out?
Yes, absolutely. I love what Dallas said at the start, and this is what we say a lot to our artists. Decide what success is to you. You don't have to sell 10,000 tickets at a stadium to be successful. You decide at the start of your campaign or your career what success is to you. If success to you is getting your first radio play and getting your first review in a print magazine, or getting, an influencer on TikTok to talk about your music, then that is success. So I think that's a really great one, and you set those goals for you. So we'll always sit down with people and say, what are your goals? We'll ask those questions. What are your, 5 this, 5 that, 5 that. What are your goals? And I think then we build a campaign around that, because as you said, it's not one size fits all. An example that we did, which was a goal for one of our artists last year called Nat Vaser, she also wanted to ARIA chart. Yes. So we went on a ARIA chart campaign, and the way that we did it was a way that was very close to her heart and very close to my heart too, because I run Record Store Day. And we did it through independent record stores. So she worked with Bendigo Vinyl in Bendigo. They did the vinyl side of it. And, a big part of it was her going, and instead of doing an actual album tour the week of her release and the week before, she did a tour of independent record stores where she could sell those copies, and it was in stores.
Because they're ARIA accredited stores, yeah.
So she did it in stores that were ARIA accredited, so everything that she sold in there would count towards that ARIA charting.
And I'll just say, just to add, because it's the same thing as well, I just did one through Bandcamp. So I went and had a meeting with the head of Australia Bandcamp, and I was like, so, got a few questions, but you can do it lots of different ways.
Yeah. And we use Bandcamp as well.
Yeah.
I love Bandcamp. The other thing with Bandcamp too is that they do editorial, And that's a
Yes.
really good way to push. So
Listening
we
parties.
always push that editorial with them because it's very dedicated music fans, again, on that space.
Yeah.
People that are there because they love music and they want to buy music. And that's how Bandcamp was set up. So, yeah, it is not, it really is different. You need to kind of, we will send people a branding document, I guess you could say, where it's literally like 3 pages of really random questions where you're probably like, why are you asking me this? But our very last question is, tell us something about yourself that someone might not know. And basically that is for us to pull information and look for different angles about you, your messaging, your brand, and your music, and how we can deliver that out to people.
And I guess it's also, Dallas, why the slash quote is the
Slushy.
on the landing page of your website. It's the first thing that you find when
It will always be on it. And my ARIA chart, my recent ARIA charts, yes.
So again, it's sort of finding the thing that's going to give you that cut through, and it's a bit, and it's not necessarily platform specific. I think that's the other thing about perhaps demystifying a little bit about, yes, digital marketing and social media is a really important part of the suite of things that you need to be thinking about. But I guess we've just also heard that, good old-fashioned emailing, some of those more traditional platforms, making sure that your music is uploaded to a platform like AMRAP, the Australian Music Radio
Airplay project. Yep.
Through the community radio stations, which is going to get you, before, about 800 community radio stations around the country. No, there's not that many, 450.
Can I add to that?
Yeah,
too?
go.
The other thing about community radio, which is really great in Australia, as you'll know, a lot of the presenters there are venue bookers or maybe festival bookers. Like, there's a couple of, there is a presenter at Triple R who books Meredith and Golden Plains. So there's that opportunity of going direct to them, to get your music in front of them, which might help build to something else.
Yeah, can I also add to that conversation? So even for me as well, it's like I didn't plan for the major stations, like, the bigger kind of radio stations. It was more meaningful to me having those smaller community radios because those people are on the ground that listen and share. Like, I really
think,
force that.
It depends, who your audience is, which is great. So you can be very targeted. You're like,
yes.
I'm rock, I can go to all these people. Like you said, I'm not emailing the metal shows.
Yeah.
The other thing to remember, though, with community radio, people are volunteering their time. So do be thoughtful of that. And, when you are reaching out to them, definitely make sure you've got all the links, a download to your music, everything there.
Say their name and say their name and their show.
Yeah. Do your research and they appreciate that. Also listen to their show.
Yeah.
Have a listen because, then you're supporting it. It's community and, we talked about this earlier and you said you would much rather have 1,000 dedicated fans
that pay $100. That's it. It's sustainable.
Then have that many. So it's about building small and building that community and having people. You don't want passive listeners. You want people who are true fans.
That's right.
And the interesting thing about that is that there is, I think, a tendency to think, oh, I need a digital marketer and I need a social media person, and then suddenly everything's just going to happen for me. And I think sort of retaining, the things that we're hearing here is sort of that authenticity around, who you are in the world as well, that's the thing that people are going to connect with. I'm interested, Peter, how you see AI sort of assisting in many ways an artist to, perhaps it is a little counterintuitive, sort of engaging a chat whatever it is, with an authentic self, an authentic artist. Are the two things possible, to sort of be engaging with AI and still maintain a kind of an authenticity around who you are as an artist?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, look, it's as I said earlier, it's just a tool and how you use it, and it's down to your creativity how you use it. I always think it's good if you can add some kind of a story to yourself as an artist, something that like press can write about and that kind of thing. Had some guys in this morning session, a band was called the Blank Cassettes, which I thought was fabulous. And like, I was like, well, do you release your record? Do you release your music on cassettes? And they were like, no, we can't afford it. But you know, I was like, well, there's a great story there, because you know, if you start putting cassettes around, first of all, send some cassettes to some A&R guys, because like they're going to go like, oh, it's a cassette. Has anyone got a cassette? No, we got rid of cassette players about 40 years ago. So you can create kind of FOMO sort of moment where, well, we've got to find out what's on this cassette now, because it could be like the next AC/DC or something. So you know, it's this often create a story, and I don't know, it's a bit of a tendency like to. Sorry, a bit of a loose connection, but you know, you could be using AI to get that story across for you a little bit. But still, you know, just come up with some creativity. Basically, that's the thing forward. It's just a tool. You know, people get a bit upset about using it for creating music. That's not what I do with it at all.
He's talking about me.
Yeah. Well, not just you, other people. But you know. At the end of the day, it's how people use that. I mean, I talked to some producers at the Dutch Music Conference last year, and what they did, how they were using AI was they would write a song. They might get some assistance in helping writing the lyrics, for example, but then they would, before they committed to studio time, they would try using AI with a female voice or a male voice and see which one suited the song best, and then they would go and invest the money in paying a real-life singer, to be it male or female, deciding what they did, to actually record the song. So I thought that was quite good use of AI, and not that sort of horrible, oh, AI is just going to like synthetically write everything and put everyone out of a job. So don't knock it all the time. I don't like that stuff either. But
I think I might add to that while you cough. I guess another way to use AI is, you know, if you're an emerging artist and you don't know where to start for a bio or a media release, is probably a good way to use it. I mean, 100%. Definitely don't send it out like that, because I've worked with a friend and she's like, I'll just do the media release for you. And I'm like, are you using ChatGPT? Yeah. She's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm probably going to rewrite it, but it will give you the bones of what you need. But the one thing I do find about ChatGPT is that there's no soul in it. Yeah. So that's where that human touch.
That's what I said to you earlier on, is to like be reviewing it, and make sure it's coming across in the voice that you would be putting across, and keep reviewing it, and don't just take the first thing that comes, like edit until you come up with a final version.
Exactly, and as you said, it's a tool. Yeah. So it's a tool to use. It's not the be all and end all, but it's a tool to use.
Yeah.
So. Did you want to add anything else to that, actually?
Me?
Both of you?
No, one of the things I did before I did the album release was a 2-day digital marketing.
Oh.
Hang on. Tracy, are you okay?
Oh, it's just that terrible kind of broadcast of phobia, and then, you know,
then once it started, it's
hay
gone.
fever, maybe.
Sort of just kind of just
have a lolly.
This is live.
It's live, guys. It's live. One of the things that I did, I think there was a little bit of a grey area for me around the back sort of ad spend area, and so I got a friend. I was pouring way too much money in that just for like the one show, because even if you're setting up one show in the back end to really get across everything, it just can be so much money if you're an independent artist and you're just starting out. And I imagine a lot of people might be in that space here. So I did a 2-day course and over Zoom and filmed, screen recorded everything. And so now I've got the tools to do it myself. Like, it really is just a setup to go, okay. So it did cost me a bit for the setup, but in fact, I've just saved each time that I do that. And when, you know, those back end things kind of update, I'll probably get a bit of refresher to kind of like stay up to date. But it can really be the things that it's an investment into your own project that can be really helpful, particularly, yes.
What did you do better? Like, when you said the difference between pouring all that money in and getting results, was it just better targeting? What did you do different?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, I probably would have been at the point, just boost the post, like, you know, I mean, probably a little, well, that's it. So there is, I'm not going to go fully into it because it's a 2-hour course and you'll have to pay me. No, I'm joking. No, that's not true. I'm not, no. But, so it's targeted ads, but there is the ways to set up lookalike audiences and, so lookalike, your engaged fans, and then there's one other one that I set it up, but then I'm doing, pardon? locations involved with all of those. So I've probably got, for the one show, I've got 12 ads that have specific targets to those areas, to the right, roots, demographic, and there's a lady who's just like backing me up over here. But no, it's
Female, age group.
yeah, age groups, those kind of things. And you can do tests, and sometimes I'll, I'm like, man, my videos last time were getting a lot more engagement, and then I'll probably look at it and realize why. But videos, different types of artwork, but all of the branding that's key as well. Yeah.
I might add to that actually.
Yeah,
if you don't want to spend money, or you're not in a position to spend money, a really great thing with social media is, and you can find things online on YouTube, wherever, is when these platforms launch new features, use those new features. So collaborations on Instagram is a great one. Like, if you're going to do a show with someone, chat with them all and say, let's all collaborate on this post together, because then it goes across everyone's feeds, which helps with the algorithm. At the moment, Instagram or Meta, they're favouring Reels. So, push those Reels a little bit more. They don't have to sit on your feed post. You can just push those. And actually the content that you make for Reels, you can use on YouTube Shorts as well. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone there. And we've been playing around with a few of our artists for YouTube and Shorts. And we're finding that it's really working, and it's pushed one of our artists into the algorithm without her spending anything.
Yeah, and listen, we're on a roll here. Just hold that question for one sec. But this is just sort of like utilising that digital side of things a little bit differently, which is what we spoke about earlier, is I'm looking at, because I'm on tour at the moment, but I'm here, but that's weird that I'm on tour. But anyway, so I'm on tour, and if some of the shows I need to sort of like focus more heavily on particular shows because the tickets are a bit slow, then I'll tap into their databases. Sometimes I'll pour ad spend in maybe on their Facebook pages because they've already got engaged fans that already go to those shows. Collaborating, the idea of collaborating with the venues to go, okay, you're 1,000 kilometres away. Is there someone to do a poster run up that area? Those kind of things. But yeah, and collaboration in that space as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess reinforcing that it's everything. I think not necessarily relying on one component of it to be the silver, magic wand. We've got about 15 minutes fortuitously, so I don't have to talk so much with my constricted. What's your name?
My turn. She's about a small.
Catching kind of.
Hello, my name's Alana, and I was wondering, when it comes to, you were just talking about how at the moment Instagram is favouring Reels and really pushing those forward. Obviously, that's always changing, like the kind of content that's prioritised. How do you stay on the pulse of what the most relevant piece of content to be focusing on is?
Yeah. I actually sign up to a newsletter, which is by a company called Orca. And I get a little update in my email inbox every day that tells me they're reporting on new trends, new features, new everything. It's a lot of research. I feel like a big part of my job now is that I don't do a lot of day-to-day stuff in my company. I spend a lot more time researching, but I actually quite enjoy it. It's fun, but yeah. Usually it's just like watching videos, signing up to, digital marketing companies that like to talk about that kind of stuff. But yeah, Orca's the one. It comes into my inbox every day. I think it's ORCA. I'll check like a whale. They're like based out of Canada, and they do courses and stuff. I actually did like a Music Ally digital marketing course as well, where they went through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, same sort of thing that you would have done. So I just try to do those regularly because they do. As soon as people figure out the algorithms and figure out stuff, they're like, they change it. But also as an artist, make sure you sign up to your, pages like YouTube. Like YouTube's got some great analytics in the back end. Spotify for artists, Apple for artists. Like really, it's just like signing up to newsletters. They will all have information on their platforms because they want people to use it. Yeah. The big thing is that they're building this for people to use. So whenever they do a feature, release a new feature, we're just on it and we're just trialing it and seeing what happens. And it's just trial and error. We talked about this earlier too. Yeah. Like with the YouTube short stuff, we're just making different length videos, posting them at different times, using different hashtags, using questions, not using questions. Do we want to do live video stuff? Is it just like your video clips? And these are all things that, you know, when if you are making a music video, what we do is we go through the music video for our artists and we just timestamp a whole bunch of places for them to go back to their editor and have them pre-edited as well. So you can kind of kill a few birds with one stone, and then you can decide what you want to do with that content. When you want to release it, you know, it might give you, if you do 10 of those, you've got like a month's worth of content, which can go across shorts and reels as well.
Yeah.
But they will always favor you in the algorithm if you use those new features.
100%. And this is a thing like where we as artists, we used to put a lot of spend into making film clips and stuff like that. I probably won't make a film clip for this next win. It's like about that short engagement. That's exactly just reinforcing what you're saying in that space. The other thing, if you're like completely starting out, I don't know where everyone is in the room. It's like, oh, I don't even know where to start. Like, what have I've got a timestamp and I've got to, you know, those kind of things. Like looking at other artists that are within your genre of music and seeing what they're doing, and you're like, oh, okay. I mean, because generally that can be like, maybe act as an inspiration to sort of get your stuff started as well. And then planning those things out, going, okay, well, what have I got to do? I've got all these things. Go, okay, well, I'm going to do a short. I'm going to do, you know, 2 photos, a slide thing, all of it. Varied content, definitely. I know that my algorithm goes like this if I'm not doing varied posts as I go along. That's one thing I noticed.
Let me just add to that too.
Yeah.
You don't need to post music videos all the time, even with YouTube. Like, you know, actually YouTube's biggest platforms are like comedians and things like that. So there's, you know, a whole bunch of different stuff. It could be like a tour diary, like you on the road, like someone who filmed you live at one of your gigs. So you could, you know, they've tagged you and you could reach out to them and say, hey, can you send it to me? I want to pop it on my YouTube shorts. So there's things like that. Like for us, it is, I mean, you do, when it comes to social media content, have to have planning. But I always just say to people, just film everything and then come back and go through it.
Shoot the shit out of it.
You know, you might find something that's gold.
It's totally true.
And also, I think whatever platform that you're using, which is true of anything that we do in our professional lives, you know, it needs to be on brand. You know, if you've got an Instagram page or you've got a TikTok account or you're using your YouTube platform, people need to be able to go there, whether they're going there, whether they're repeat customers or listeners. Or they're the first time they've found you because someone else tagged you or something like that, that, you know, they need to be able to go to your Instagram page, and if that's your preferred platform, and it's just this magnificent, you know, consistently branded landing page that every single thing you're posting is bang on message in terms of telling the story and being really consistent about what your story is and what your kind of heart of what you're doing.
I'm actually going to throw to Peter for this one because you have perfect examples of that where it comes to the metadata thing, like, you know, across social media, artists, making sure everything's consistent.
Yeah, again, that's the tagging thing. We talked about something in the earlier session, which I mentioned today, which is there's a bit of a shift coming along in that in a typical Google search, you would get like a list of links when you search for a term, and then you kind of dive into those links and search out what you want. And what's got Google really worried at the minute is the AI search has now got access to the internet, is shifting to giving people an answer. So instead of giving you a whole heap of links to go and do it, it'll come back with, hey, who's a really cool jazz band in Mornington? And if you're tagged up nicely and all that kind of stuff, it's likely to come back with your answer. And that's like being at number 1 in the Google list. It's like,
Can you explain where people need to be tagging?
I would say everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, anywhere you've got your content online, tag it with anything that you think is relevant and anything that's going to find your audience or describe what you are doing and how you're putting it out. You know, just that's what computers can understand, tags and you know, and so if you've got like your stuff well tagged and optimized, then you're top of the list. You know, I learned this in working with voice activated stuff as well. Voice activated stuff doesn't give you like a screen like Google like does on a PC. It just gives you an answer. So you know, Alexa, play me some amazing jazz music, or Alexa, play me some funk, and she'll come up with whatever she thinks is based on whatever algorithms and their secret sauce is. But, you know, to get there in the first place, you've got to be tagged.
So tagging on your Instagram posts,
Tag
on your
on
web.
everything.
Yeah.
I mean, don't tag ridiculous stuff, but
Yeah.
you know.
Want to ask some questions? Yeah. So in the front, Julie. Yeah.
Yeah, what sort of tagging? Can you explain?
I think that would probably be your department.
Yeah, so,
I'll
your
give you- I'll
genre.
give you a t-shirt
I think-
anyway.
Oh. Well done, yeah,
I
give her a
think-
clap.
I mean, the main thing is, especially with socials, make sure, you know, your handles are all consistent and the same as much as possible so that when people do Google you, they will come up. But hashtags of like your genre, like you said, if you're searching jazz, you want to make sure that is. But it also comes back to what you've tagged in your metadata as well. So making sure.
Can you explain explain that?
the metadata?
Yeah,
Well,
tagged in your metadata.
Okay. Go again. Yeah.
Well, the metadata is behind the scenes when you upload it to your digital distribution company.
Yeah.
So making sure, like if it's Ditto or AWOL or GyroStream or anywhere like that, making sure that all of those tags are correct. I would say APRA as well
Mm-hmm.
would be a place.
So when
I don't know
you're-
where you tag, like when you upload to APRA,
No, there's no.
ARIA gives you your ISRC codes.
yeah.
That's APRA. Oh no,
No, you can,
well you can generate your own IRSC code.
which, which would be with your digital distribution.
Yeah.
So making sure that is in, like, I guess for us, when we do radio servicing, we use a platform called Disco, and we make sure all that information is tagged
Mm-hmm.
in those tracks as well. But yeah, I mean, keeping your hashtags, I guess, consistent, you know, for you, but then also you want to use trending hashtags as well. But definitely your genre, because if you're a jazz band, then you're going to be tagging the shit out of jazz, right? You want to be like jazz, jazz, jazz. So that when you Google, I actually Googled bands the other day when you were talking about this earlier. There's, we're working on a tour with a Korean artist and a Taiwanese artist, and they're indie kind of jazz. And so I was like, I had in mind some supports that I know of, but then I Googled like other artists like that in Australia. And what actually came up, which I'd never seen before, was this table that was moving and like kind of like put all these artists in there, which I'd never seen before. Yeah. So that was really interesting. I can't remember if I clicked on it or like I would have clicked on it to some degree, but yeah, I was literally like, I'm like, okay, I know that there's some artists, but who are the other artists in this genre in Australia? So I literally Googled
I think,
indie jazz
just
artists
say something.
Australia.
There is another AI platform called Perplexity AI, which I encourage you to have a look at, and that'll show you an example of what I'm talking about. They were probably the first ones doing it, but for example, if I said, who is Pete Whelan from the Gold Coast? It would actually come and say, Pete Whelan is a developer from the Gold Coast, blah, blah, blah. But where it actually got and it's sites where it gets the information from, and in this particular case, if you like, from LinkedIn. So it's straight my LinkedIn profile. It decided, like, from what I'd said about myself, i.e. I've tagged myself in a long form way, not just like a short tag. This is a long form, what I've written out in my profile. It's then condensed it into what it thinks is like, a short summary about me. And you can try it with yourself if you've got like things like that.
So it's
really
repeating
fascinating.
certain words as well, like in
so
your copy.
I've tagged myself by giving myself a bio. It's compressed that into what it thinks that
Yeah.
I am. A software developer based in the Gold Coast.
A legend
A
fest.
legend in his
A
own
legend.
time.
We need to take some questions from
Yes.
the floor. So we've got two here at the front. Yep. You go. Yep.
I was just wondering with branding, obviously, because you want that to be cohesive with the genre
Your
and
brand.
the audience and people you're trying to connect with. Where would you start with all of that, figuring out?
I've got a little I've got a little thing. So good question.
You're doing the next throwing.
All right, back to me. So one thing that Push do, I don't know if you're going to say the same thing, but a lot in the early mentor programs, they ask the artist, if you were a piece of furniture, what piece of furniture would you be? And so sometimes you can get on Pinterest, like me, I'd be this big red velvet couch with lightning bolts popping out. And it can be like a really creative. And generally people go, I'd be a green wardrobe or something like that with a bit of stone wash, whatever it is. But people can kind of sort of say that. And then all of a sudden you've got the colours for your branding, and maybe the aesthetic for your brand. And I think it's important to have a logo can be important to have a logo. We all know what the AC/DC logo looks like, or Metallica, or the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
So that's a really good example of that, and that goes across all kind of stuff. But yeah,
I mean, that's also just about, I guess, choosing a typeface that you feel is going to have a language that resonates for you. What kind of artist are you?
I love sort of like jazz and
Are you a performer?
Yes.
Yeah. And
would
that's the
you
kind
have lightning bolts then?
I don't think I have lightning bolts.
There we go.
They're brilliant.
Yeah.
But so it's almost
Yeah.
also what you're not. Next door. Yep.
Can I just add
It's
something about
Medium for
genres?
sure.
Yes.
I worked for a record label for 4.5 years. The genre, if you want to know if you want to decide what your genre is going to be online, best is to look at the Apple Music iTunes list. There's a category and then a subcategory it's huge. It's a long list. Try and find your genre in there. And don't be too weird with it, but pick genre and then your subgenre and use that as well on Bandcamp and use that on
Be consistent.
SoundCloud
Yeah.
as well.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank
You've
you.
got to be consistent.
Question?
Yeah, for Dallas, before when you said that when you emailed people, you said you had a
Database.
database
Yeah.
spreadsheet. I just want to know, like, where do you get those contacts from?
So
Like,
I've been collecting emails since I started out as an artist. So I've got a lot of emails in my database.
Yeah.
And so after the show, even whether it's a big show or a small show, and I am at the merch stand afterwards, because it's really meaningful to me that people spend their time to come to my show. And so I'll be there to say thank you at the end of the gig. So I'm always at the merch stand. I know a lot of artists don't do that. I find it weird that people don't, but it's okay. Like, it can be, everyone's had 50 beers by then, but that's cool. That's okay. And so I will say to them, if you want to know, if you want to know when I've got more shows coming up, sign here. And so in the early days, I'd just have a bit of paper and like just deciphering people's writing after 50 beers. I was putting in a lot of wrong emails for a long time. And then so I got an iPad and I just put that up now. Now I've got and I've got it connected to my website. So I'll have that. My merch person will have that. And I will always say to my merch person, this is, for someone buying my shirt, like they'll be wearing that for 10 years. We were talking about that earlier. That will advertise. So it's, important to get those designs right. But also those emails I've got, someone's actually given me their letterbox to be able to connect with them, because MySpace was big, that went, Facebook was big, that kind of went, Instagram, now there's TikTok, it will keep moving, but you've got direct. So just ask them.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I was actually talking to Gerard about this, who's on one of the other panels, if you get a chance.
Artist.
And actually Brad from Oztix as well.
Frontier.
Yeah, and Brad from Oztix too. So the other thing is that a lot of people don't realise, when you are playing a gig at a venue and you're doing online ticket sales, you can ask when you're setting up your ticketing to have an opt-in for you. And that gives the buyer an option to opt into your email database. So basically then at the end of that show, if everyone opts in, you might have 300 new emails.
So I do that. I do that for every show. Sometimes there's a little muscle power to negotiate why they should be giving you the contacts for the people that are paying to come to your show, even though that it's in their venue. You've just got to be strong in those spaces. Not all. Sometimes, say with Oztix, it's difficult to get the emails in that space. I don't know what Brad was talking. Is that Brad we're talking about? Yeah. Bit more muscle power needed in that space.
Said he very happily hands them out in the small
Wow.
Yeah.
Send
I
me
think
my
it
way,
might-
people.
I think it's changed. I think it changed when the
Might have
laws changed, and now they have the opt-in. So, but you have to
Yeah.
make sure you ask for that
But
to be
that is-
included.
that's
and
what you
that
want.
If they don't opt in, they can't give it to you.
Yeah.
For legality
Oh,
reasons.
got it. Yeah,
So
you're
that's
right. You're
all
right.
it is. It is literally the most
really
important thing
important.
is to ask for the opt-in option on those.
And
ticket
that can
sales.
even be like when maybe you're putting on your first show or whatever, or the venue doesn't have their own ticketing company. Try and look for a ticketing company that you can get that back end data, because there was
Eventbrite.
Eventbrite.
If you're doing events.
One
that are
good
free.
example is James Blunt, I think recently went solo, and he's been with like major labels his whole career, and he's come to the other side. And it's something that he was talking about, saying it's really important to me now. I've always wanted to be an independent artist. Here I am. But what happens with major label artists, they don't have any of their data to walk away with at the end of the day. And that is our stuff. And so he got away from this label, and his first post was, so I've started up a mailing list and my mum and dad have signed up to the mailing list. And maybe you would like to. So this is like, we know that how important that is. Email addresses are so important because it's their ticket straight to their letterbox, and you've got direct access to them always.
And you own it.
And don't spam them.
And you own it. It's
And you own it.
It's the only thing that you actually own.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as we said, MySpace gone. You can spend all your money.
Algorithms.
And time and effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
You own it.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Most off topic question of the day.
Large.
Dallas,
Yep.
how's the tour going, and when can we see you in Vic?
In Vic,
When's your next big show?
here's a shirt, man. I'm playing in Melbourne, not this week, but next. It's interesting. The music industry's changed a lot in the last couple of years, as we know. It can be really difficult to get out there and have a bit of a go. It's been a really humbling experience for me. Most artists aren't selling the tickets as what they used to. But I think as artists, if we keep showing up and encourage people, build confidence with our audiences to come back, all that kind of stuff. So the short answer is, I was going to be playing in Mornington, but we know Hubbard's only just recently closed the doors. But I'm playing Melbourne, Saturday, August the 24th. So I've got the full band, and it's going to be a killer show, so come along. Northcote Social Club.
Oh, I love it.
So book your tickets, jump online, sign up to my mailing list. There we go.
Any other questions before we wrap this session? Yes, last question. Thank you.
You seem to be doing a lot of work within yourself or self-managing.
Are you looking at me?
Yes.
Sorry, yes, it's Hazy. Yeah, yes, I am. Yeah.
So how many people in the stuff?
You're looking at it, mate.
Staff of
So, okay, so that's not entirely true. So one of my biggest things is, I think I see artists fail is because they don't set realistic goals. And so for me personally, it's about setting realistic goals that I think that I can personally manage. I love a bit of hard work, I'm not going to lie, but it's for this tour, I've sort of put shows roughly every fortnight out so that I can come down and go, okay, this one isn't selling so well. I've got time to sort of re-gear rather than getting home, lying on the couch for a day, learning how to walk and talk again, and then getting up and hopping in the tour van and going again. So, yeah, so manageable things. If I am feeling, I mentor a lot of artists, so I'll always do swapsies. I'm like, so I'm helping you out. Do you want to come and help me send some emails out? Those kind of things. So the barter system is still strong in my world, that's for sure. What are you?
A medium.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, please thank Peter Wheeler and Dallas Frasca and Sarah Guppy.
And Tracy Hutchinson.
Thanks so much for coming, and I'm sorry I've coughed so much, Steve. I had